that would be myself and Dr. Conreader. Of course, Professor Ibrahim Abulugad from Northwestern University, who is also on the committee, is not here and will not be able to take advantage of that. At that point, other faculty members will be given an opportunity to pose questions. Please come in. Come in and find a place over on the other side here or wherever you're comfortable. Other members of the audience will have a chance to pose questions and discuss the dissertation with, which I would still say Mr. Hisham Ahmed. And then you'll have an introduction of visitors, and when the defense is completed, assuming the committee finds it acceptable, we will have refreshments. We've already purchased the refreshments, so I think we'll probably use them. So then, without further ado, I will give the floor to the candidate, and when he's completed his presentation, I will shepherd the posing of questions and the discussion. The floor is yours, Mr. Ahmed.
Thank you, Professor Anderson. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to spend a few minutes with you today to tell you a little bit about what I did about the topic, American foreign policy and Palestinian self-determination from 1917 until 1948. As we can all predict, this topic should have been covered perhaps a long time ago rather than in 1989. Before I start some general remarks about the topic, let me first say that there is no way on earth that I can go in all the details covered in approximately roughly 300 pages in half an hour or 40 minutes. What I will do, first of all, is to distribute some sort of an outline which would give you an indication as to what I did, the different things, some of which I will talk about, the others which I will not talk about due to the lack of time. So here is some kind of an outline, and hopefully it will help you later on to raise questions that you may have. Self-determination. Perhaps, as the outset, it's important to raise a theoretical question, and what is that? What does self-determination mean? I believe that it is not a strange concept for anybody in this audience to hear the concept of determination. After all, the United States had a great deal to do with the popularization of the principle, especially since World War I, or at the end of World War I, when Wilson enunciated this principle as the ruling principle of world order after World War I. Perhaps throughout the whole world, up to this point, the conventional wisdom holds that it is Woodrow Wilson who is behind the enunciation, the popularization of this principle. In my dissertation, I tried to test this hypothesis presented by the conventional wisdom, and my finding was that the case is not that way at all. Yes, indeed, Wilson spoke of self-determination, but self-determination has been perhaps mentioned since the dawn of history. The term self-determination originated from the German term, from the German language, Selbstbestimmungsrecht, in the 19th century, and it was used in several conferences by German scholars, other European scholars, as a viable way of keeping, if you will, the relations between the governed and the governing elite relatively stable. After all, if the governing me run through very quickly through some historical background, and perhaps can no more than 3 minutes on that. The question of Palestine has been terribly neglected in the environment where it should have been studied the most, that is, in the West in general, but in the United States in particular. The problem was compounded, particularly since 1917, with the issuance of the Balfour Declaration by the British government, promising the establishment of a national home for the Jews in Palestine. Now, let me indicate when I use the term Jews, I always use that when it is mentioned by somebody else, because the problem, at least the way I perceive it, is not a problem between Jews and non-Jews, as was put forth in the Balfour Declaration, as well as in many other doctrines, pronouncements, and programs. It's much profounder than that. It's a problem between the Zionist ideology, which I hopefully have time to say a few words about, and indigenous people in Palestine who were colonized and subjected to fragmentation, dispossession, and so on and so forth. The Balfour Declaration was issued by the British government, as I said, and the conventional wisdom all along held that it was the British who were behind the intensification of the problem in Palestine by promising the establishment of a national home for the Jews there. The United States stood in opposition to the issuance of that declaration. This is what most, I wouldn't say all, textbooks said and still say, not only in the United States, but in the Arab world as well. The way we are taught about Wilson, he's the champion of democracy, he wanted to make the world safe for democracy, and all of that, neglecting the many facts, the intervention in Mexico, his role in issuing the Balfour Declaration, and the very close association he had with Louis Brandeis, Supreme Court Justice during Wilson's era, was terribly influential in drafting, formulating, and if you're specifying the time for the issuance of the Balfour Declaration. Close friends of Wilson, Brandeis, to the point that even when the British entertained the idea of promising some sort of declaration, giving the Zionists some sort of promise to serve their war purposes at that time, Brandeis persisted that the declaration be precise as to the point where the political rights of Jews throughout the whole world would still be protected despite the fact that there will be a promise for the establishment of the national home for the Jews in Palestine. And he was behind the clause that only the civil and religious rights of the non-Jewish population in Palestine will be protected. Now, the non-Jewish population of Palestine, that is saying 91% of the entire population, referred to as the non-Jewish population of Palestine, their national identity, their territorial identity was thoroughly neglected. All of these points, to a great extent, have been, if you will, obscured by the relationship between the United States and Britain at the time. Wilson didn't see fit that the United States issued the Balfour Declaration. He believed that Britain would be more fit for that, especially that the United States was not at war with Turkey as Britain was. The United States was not interested in full involvement in the question of Palestine at that time. It was not interested in full involvement in Arab politics at that time either. Therefore, it was proposed that Britain would be more fit for the issuance of the declaration. Some scholars argue that one of the main reasons for the entry of the United States into World War I was the issuance of the Balfour Declaration at that time. That might sound a bit difficult to believe at this moment, but if we look at what Lloyd George himself said, that the Balfour Declaration was basically the payment given to the Zionists for their pressure on the Wilson administration to enter the war. If we look at what Balfour himself said, unequivocally find evidence that the United States has a great deal to do with the issuance of the Doctoral Declaration and the interrelationship between the entry of the United States and the issuance of the Declaration. Very quickly also to move on, and here is, I think, the highlight of the dissertation, is what happened after the issuance of the Declaration. What did Wilson do? Obviously, Wilson came under conflicting pressures from the Palestinians, without having any contact, I should say, with any Palestinian representative whatsoever. I'll clarify that shortly. And on the other hand, from the Zionists. The Zionists, we all know, was Louis Frankfurter, Louis Brandeis, De Haas, and other associates of Wilson at the time. From the Palestinian side, it was concerned Americans, who, some of whom were Zionists themselves, who went to Palestine and investigated the situation there in their own way, in a way that would accord with the realities of Palestine, and came back and reported to Wilson. And they suggested to Wilson that the best thing to do is to send a commission, that the peace conference in 1919 should send a commission to investigate the situation in the former provinces of the Ottoman Empire, including Palestine. One of those persons who suggested that to Wilson was the president of the American University at Beirut, one of Wilson's aides, Westerman, several others basically prevailed upon Wilson to do this. Well, Wilson agreed in principle. Once he agreed, the trouble started. The trouble started because Frankfurter, Brandeis didn't like that at all. They were very well aware, and the intelligence services at the time was not bad, or not much better these days, but they were very well aware that the majority of the population in Palestine were the indigenous, that nobody, no Palestinian, was in favor of the implementation of the Zionist program, and they were also aware that if a commission from the peace conference, be it Americans or the American, British or French or whatever it was, and irrespective of the inclination of the commissioners themselves, they were very well aware that if a commission was sent to Palestine, the commission was going to come back in favor of Palestinian rights. Well, very cumbersome, very tense situation from the beginning of 1919 until the beginning of the summer of 1919. Finally, Wilson got tired of the whole situation and said, okay, I'll send a commission. He consulted with the Allies, the British and the French. They refused for many reasons, which I won't go into now, but basically, the British in particular were aware that the commission would also contradict their promises to the Zionists and so on and so forth. Wilson said, okay, I'll have a compromise. I'll send the commission, and the commission will be solely American, but from the commission's field of inquiry, Palestine should be excluded. So from the outset, you can detect the trouble, the ensuing trouble from that moment. The commission was sent, investigated the situation in Palestine very thoroughly, and I will take a few moments to cite in relative length some of what the commission said, because absolutely, I haven't seen it in any textbook taught in Middle East politics in this country, to my knowledge. And there is something more to come yet. The commission went to Palestine, investigated the situation there, and sent telegrams to Paris while Wilson was still in Paris in June of 1919 as well as in July of 1919. And the reporting was clear that the implementation of the Zionist program will be in flagrant violation of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, that principle which was enunciated by Wilson, by the Allies themselves, and they urged the President, Wilson, to divorce himself from his support of the implementation of the Zionist program. So Wilson did know as to the actual real conditions in Palestine. That was June, July of 1919. At the end of its study, in late August 1919, the Commission sent whole report to the Paris Peace Conference. Wilson wasn't in Paris at that time. He was back to Washington, but the States, he got sick. It's a long story about how he got sick, when did he get sick, if he really got sick, and it's a very confusing situation and it's interesting to read. And here where I think the dissertation comes into play as what happened to the report. Many scholars, I would say any expert on the subject, does know that the report of the King-Crane Commission was suppressed. When it was sent to Paris in August 1919, it wasn't released to the public, to anybody whatsoever. It was suppressed for 3 years, until 1922, July of 1922 to be specific. Without anybody knowing what happened, what the commission did. As I said, every scholar realizes that the report was suppressed. Nobody has any doubt as to whether the report was suppressed or not. The question of hand, and here where I think, as I said, the heart of the dissertation comes into play, is why was the report suppressed? What factors led to the suppression of the report? And different scholars give different opinions. Some say that Wilson misread because he was there. Some others say, well, the British and the French were not interested in releasing the report because the report did contradict their promises and therefore they didn't want it to be known. Some others say, well, because the Versailles Treaty was already signed, in which the Balfour Declaration was included, and therefore it's too late to say anything about Palestine. Most of these factors do sound relevant indeed, but my hypothesis regarding this, or my theory, is that it wouldn't have really mattered much whether Wilson knew about read the report or not. We don't know. Perhaps we'll never know whether Wilson read the report or not. But if we examine Wilson's stand on Palestine before the commission was sent, which was clear negation of Palestinian self-determination, especially when he informed the commission that Palestine should be excluded from their field of inquiry, if we test Wilson's response to the telegrams he received from the commission while he was in Paris in June and July of 1919, and more importantly, if we examine Wilson's stand on Palestine after the commission sent its report, even when he was ill, we will come up with a conclusion, I believe, that had Wilson read the report at that time, it wouldn't have really made much difference. Now, let me excerpt, if I may so do, some of what the report said, because I think that it's very important, and I do believe that we're coming close to the allotted half hour, but I really think that's really important to do that, especially that I mentioned July of 1922. During that year, Congress passed a congressional resolution in support of the Zionist program. And had the report of the King-Crane Commission been known at that time, perhaps, there is no way to guarantee, perhaps, the resolution would have passed. But we will come to that shortly, I believe. Some of what the report said, first of all, what I already mentioned, that the implementation of the Zionist program would be in clear violation of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination. Second, that if there had to be a mandate by the Allied powers, either on Syria or Lebanon or Palestine, the indigenous people there would like to have the United States be in charge of the mandate. Now we have to go back in history a little bit because that would have contradicted if it happened earlier British and French treaties, especially in 1916, the Sykes-Picot Agreement, where Syria and Lebanon were designed or were assigned to be under French control. Jordan, Iraq would be under British control. Palestine would be internationalized according to the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Internationalized, whatever this meant at the time, it wasn't clear. But of course, in 1917, with the Balfour Declaration, it became clear. The report also said that the implementation of the Zionist program would entail the use, or would necessitate the employment of a great army to suppress the indigenous population who were already resisting the Zionist program. If you look at the Intifada these days, obviously point that the commissioners made clear, that the implementation of the Zionist program wouldn't only endanger the rights of the indigenous people of Palestine, but it would also be rejected by Christians throughout the world, the Muslims throughout the world, because there's no exclusivity to the Zionists or to the Jews in Palestine, as the commissioners very explicitly said, especially for the holy places, Muslim holy places, Christian holy places, are not considered by the Jews part of their holy places. Therefore, they are not going to be respected. Second, based on thorough research, the commissioners concluded that Muslims have a history of protecting Christian and Jewish holy places more than any religious group. Now, I'm giving you these factors, irrespective of what I might think, what some of us may think, but on political grounds, on religious grounds, on topographical grounds, the commissioner basically emphasized that the implementation of the Zionist program would lead to incredible trouble. We jump to 1922, and this is another highlight because absolutely, to my knowledge, the discussion surrounding the congressional resolution of 1922, Resolution 322, to my knowledge, hasn't been ever explored by any scholar so far. I don't know that's what I came up with in my research. I've done it extensively, thoroughly, as much as I could, but I haven't really come up with any source that recorded the discussion, the hearing surrounding that resolution. And in that resolution, the question, the main tenet of the resolution was what to do about the Balfour Declaration, whether to issue a resolution in support of the Balfour Declaration, which is basically supporting the Zionist program, or to somehow take into consideration Palestinian rights. And there were incredible things in that hearing, incredible things. The answer, especially by Zionist supporters at that time, that Palestine would be dealt with the same way the Native Americans were dealt with when the American colonists came into this country. They would be basically concentrated on reservations, or exterminated, or basically kept under subjugation. Now, this is absolutely the way they said it. And let me share with you some of the insights of this period for the very reason that it has been neglected in scholarship so far. So to take just a second, and then we will be next to share. I'd like to also.
We like to help you, Hisham.
Well, I didn't like that one, right? The main dispute was, as I said, how to treat the question of Palestine. And here is what one of the members of the committee in charge of submitting a report on Palestine said, and I'm quoting verbatim basically, the resettling of Palestine has created a situation somewhat akin to that of the American colonists in a struggle with the American Indian. For like the early American settler on this continent, the Jewish colonist frequently has to till the soil with a rifle in one hand and a hoe in the other. The nomadic Arab raiders, I should not, or footnote I should say, at this moment that this congressman obviously haven't read the history well. The budget of the American budget is functional about zero. Arab raiders on a smaller scale are fighting the civilization of the Jewish settler as the Indian fought the American settler on this continent in the early days. That was Albert Rostel from the House of Representatives. That was in 1922. I couldn't establish any connection thus far between what he enunciated or what he formulated and what other Zionist politicians did. Before I go into this, let me indicate the because the only one who was speaking up for Palestinian rights was an American Zionist throughout this hearing, Professor Edward Bruce Reed, who himself was Zionist. He went to Palestine with the Red Cross, spent there 6 months, sorting where they were, came up with his own observations on what happened, and he came back, he was called for the hearing, and he warned the committee that the implementation of the Zionist program would lead to incredible trouble. He basically asked them if the people of Palestine had no right to control immigration to their country, perhaps the same thing should be applied here in the United States. Americans don't have the right to control outright immigration into their country. And it was a revealing, interesting debate, I should say. In terms of the connection, as I said, between what Doctoral said and other Zionist positions later on, I couldn't really find a direct connection. But very interesting, they used what Vladimir Jabotinsky, if you will, the originator of Begin's and Shamir's idea of Israel, the expulsion of the entire Palestinian population, the occupation of Egypt, Iraq, from the Euphrates to the Nile, the whole territory surrounding Palestine. Here's what he said, and I also would like to recite this in length because it is, to a certain extent, neglected I would say, in mainstream sources on the Middle East. And I believe what he said reveals or testifies to the actuality of the problems on its basis. Any native people, all the same, whether they are civilized or savage, use their country as their national home, of which they will always be the complete master. They will not voluntarily allow not only a new master but even a new partner. And so it is for the Arabs. Compromisers in our midst attempt to convince us that the Arabs are some kind of fool who can be tricked by a softened formulation of our law. Now compare that to what was said a little bit earlier. Or a tribe of money grubbers who will abandon their birthright to Palestine for cultural and economic gains. I flatly reject this assessment of the Palestinian Arabs. You want to look at it. Culturally, they are 500 years behind us. Here we get into the picture again. Spiritually, they do not have our endurance or our strength of will, but this exhausts all of the internal differences between the violence. They look upon Palestine with the same instinctive love and true fervor that any ascetic looks upon his Mexico or any student looks upon his prairie. This childish fantasy of our Arabophiles comes from some kind of contempt for the Arab people, of some kind of unfounded view of the strength that the Arab radically drive in order to sell out their homeland for a railroad network. I'll stop here with the article, or the very with the article, and basically try to sum up the rest of what I have to say in 2 words. We're supposed at 1922-23. The period goes on to 1948. Last eventful year between 22 and 48. The Anglo-American Convention of 1924 was signed. What that basically was about? The United States became interested in sharing with the British full-scale responsibility in Palestine, which they couldn't do before because they were not in the agreement. With the Anglo-American Convention of 24 basically said that American missionaries, American citizens would be protected in Palestine the same way British interests and British private businesses would be protected. The rights of the Palestinian people, of course, were not mentioned, were not even uttered. And the Anglo-American Convention of 24 incorporated Balfour Declaration, the mandate system, which I don't have the time to go into. But even the Anglo-American Convention of 24, despite the fact that it referred to the rights of American citizens, missionaries, and private businesses, I think there was millions of Americans who have American passports who were born in the state, when they go back to Palestine, they are not treated in the same way an American is treated, or an American Zionist, if you will, is treated, or an American Jew is treated. And I should point out, for the sake of the argument, that in this audience we have one of those examples. Fasten, perhaps you could stand for a moment to be recognized. This is just to indicate and to actually stress the depth of the institutionalization of the rejection of Palestinian rights, no matter what citizenship they have. Even the question of hand wasn't, I believe, the question of Palestinian self-determination, but perhaps the very existence of Palestine, of the Palestinians as a nationality, territorial entity, that was really the issue. The partition of Palestine in 1947, very quickly, was done in a way that no legal mind would ever consider acceptable. When the Palestinians and Arab countries proposed that the question of partitioning Palestine should be taken to the International Court of Justice, the United States ardently stood in opposition to this request. Remember, of course, the instance of the United States withdrawal, departure from the hearings on mining the Nicaraguan harbor. Well, there is a precedent there in 1947. The refusal, or the hesitation, if you will, to take the issue of floating the Palestinian mission in the United Nations to the court was also reflected in the United States, if you will, tenacious opposition to giving any consideration to Palestinian rights and representation of national and so on and so forth. Regarding the partition, I mentioned the International Court of Justice, that's the legal side of it. Take the demographic side, but the question is not demographic at all. The people of Palestine were the majority. They were not even consulted. They were not asked whether would you like to have somebody share your homeland with you or not. The question of humanitarianism and all of that, perhaps many of us may think that it was the underlying concern of the Truman administration. From what I found out, this was the least of concern at the time for the Truman administration and for the Zionists. If there was an interest in rescuing the Holocaust survivors, perhaps they had more empty territory than Palestine did, and those victims were unjustly victimized, perhaps they have been brought here. But the story, as I said, goes on and on and on. And for one to understand what happens or what's happening today, and that's when I stopped at 1948, one had to go back in history and look at these earlier developments. You have to remember, and I will conclude with this, that all this was taking place when there was no PLO, there was no Arafat, there was no Abu Dhabi. There were these, if you will, terminologies, which are often used these days for intoxication or public opinion, I believe, were not there. So you had a different kind of justification. Palestine was a desert. The Zionists were to make the desert known. But if you look very carefully at what Brandeis said, who himself went to Palestine to obstruct the Crane Commission's inquiry, he himself came back with a report saying that Palestine is very fair to have. And Palestine, just because it is not a desert, it is the most suitable place for the Zionists to colonize. Herbert Samuel, the British commissioner in Palestine, said the same thing. So these myths are defined later on, but more interestingly, they are defined nowadays by revisionist Jewish writers, such as Simcha Flatman, who very well documented the atrocities committed in 1947, in 1917, by Avi Schlein, who also had an access to Zionist archives and who managed to document the actual development at the time. I'll conclude with this. Thank you very much, and I'll be working.
Well, I guess the first question, because I can concentrate on giving other people their turn in posing questions. Mr. Ahmed, method in which the world would be divided following the victory of the Allies in the First World War?
This is one of the most interesting questions because perhaps Wilson himself wouldn't have a clear-cut answer for. On certain occasions, Wilson spoke of self-determination as it was only applicable to Europeans. And in other instances, he spoke of self-determination as it was applicable to West Europeans only. And then in other instances, he spoke of self-determination in a way that it related to the German, the Austro-Hungarian, and the Ottoman Empire, the people living under these, if you will, the authorities of these empires. But in other instances, too, he spoke of self-determination as a universal principle. If we, for example, here is what he said in a very famous speech. That was in his 4 points in February of 1918. National aspirations must be respected. Peoples, he didn't say Europeans, he didn't say West Europeans, he didn't say Polish in particular. Peoples must now be dominated and governed only by their own consent. And there were other phraseology that he came up with. But I think the underlying question really is, if self-determination is applicable in one case, why is it not applicable in other cases? And I think that this is one of the most troubling questions that American foreign policymakers couldn't come up with a convincing answer for. If you look at Leslie Green, for example, a prominent scholar who is ardently opposed to the implementation of self-determination, says that self-determination is not even a right. While United Nations resolutions on self-determination are immense. All text writers, jurists recognize that self-determination is a right. So perhaps Wilson didn't mean to universalize that at the time, but his differentiation was on racial grounds, whether this is European, Asian, African, and so on and so forth. And perhaps that's where the problem was.
You mentioned that the Crane Commission report was suppressed, and you also intimated that there was considerable testimony given to the Congress about the likelihood of violence growing out of the implementation of the Balfour Declaration. Did the testimony given to the Congress pretty much cover what the Crane Commission would have presented, or would it merely have been the weight of the Commission which would have added to that rather than any additional information which the Crane Commission might have supplied, which wasn't given by others to the Congress?
The testimony by Professor Reed was indeed thorough, and I should indicate, interestingly enough, that none of the sources he cited were Zionist. He cited all the sources he cited were Zionist sources, original Zionist sources, and he very thoroughly provided the committee with specific information as to the plans the Zionists had for the colonization of Palestine, for uprooting the Palestinian people, for dispossessing them from their country, for transforming Palestine into a Zionist entity. And he gave them very thorough information, and as I said before, I repeat, perhaps that's one of the most important points in the entire dissertation. Now, as to the King-Crane Commission report, perhaps it would have made a difference. I myself doubt that. I think the question of Palestine in the United States is not a question of information. I'll tell you why. American intelligence services perhaps has more information about Palestinian affairs than Palestinians themselves do. The American Council in Jerusalem in 1919, the beginning of 1919, before the commission was dispatched, sent a telegram to Wilson, basically saying in brief what the commission itself said. In December of 1919, after the report was submitted to the Paris Peace Conference, Glazebrook, that same council, sent another telegram specifying that the situation is getting tense, more tense day after day. And there were other reports later on. If we look at, for example, the report of American doctors last year about the Intifada and the brutality employed by the Israeli army using American-made bullets. All these reports go to Congress, and they debate them very, very carefully. But I think if you will, dehumanization of the Palestinians is done irrespective of what they go through, irrespective of what information is received.
Now the committee members have priority in posing questions. If they'd like to take advantage of their priority. Yes, Professor Hunter.
Hisham, I also have a question on self-determination. I wonder if you would share with us your reflections. Try to imagine the concept of self-determination would not have appeared in anticipation at all. In other words, what kinds of consequences for the structure, for the narrative, for the argument might have resulted if you had somehow bracketed out or not used the concept of self-determination at all?
That's a very interesting question indeed too. I would say this. For the very reason I decided to incorporate the concept of self-determination, and I'll definitely get back to that question in just a second. The very reason I decided to incorporate the concept of self-determination, first of all, because there is no country on earth, at least in modern history, that is more responsible for the popularization of this principle than the United States. Second, the main trouble, the main reason for conflict in the Middle East, and this is recognized by Palestinians, Israelis, and Americans alike, is the denial of Palestinian self-determination. The whole world, without any exception, I should say, recognizes the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, except the United States and Israel. Now, if I bracketed out self-determination from the dissertation, what would be or how would it look like? I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure.
The title would read American Foreign Policy and Palestinian.
That could be indeed, and that could be indeed. But you see, the interesting thing that the whole problem is Palestinians, and what is self-determination all about anyway? It's allowing people to study, to go to universities without interruptions, without closure. 75% of the entire year in Palestine, the universities are closed. Schools, kindergartens. So this is one dimension of self-determination, or one facet, I should say, because it's not the whole dimension. Another facet is traveling freely without problems. And here Palestinians are not discriminated against, whether they are Palestinians, American Palestinians, and the whole list. More importantly, is the right to representation. Who's going to represent the Palestinians? Who's going to speak on their behalf? Well, Jordan. Jordan is not doing it anymore, or they don't want to do it. So the question of the concept of self-determination is indeed all-encompassing. It includes every aspect of the Palestinian problem, from representation of territorial, national independence, not being concentrated in prisons as there are the cases now in the desert, no trial. People are arrested in the thousands. We're talking about more than 10,000 Palestinians being jailed without trial, without hearing, without the right to see their lawyer, without the right to see their relatives. Besides that, they're being gassed, tear-gassed, in jail, and they are being shot at and killed, even while they are in jail. And the best source, the best sources to look at that is the Israeli press itself. So all I'm really saying, I'm sure that dissertation will still provide valuable information without incorporating the concept, but I think this is the backbone. This is the pillar of the dissertation, is to test the hypocrisy between the verbal enunciation of a principle, human rights, or any other principle, and the actual practice on the ground.
Well, I think you've included some things that are broader than self-determination. It would be possible to have human rights in the sense of basic protections against arbitrary arrest and violence and so on, and still not have self-determination.
It's very possible, but I think there would be a breakdown in upholding human rights in that case, because after all, human rights without national rights will be in limbo. There will not be, who's going to protect human rights if there is no national authority to do that?
Would you like to follow up on that?
I hope I answered the question, Professor Halil.
Professor Robinson?
Yeah. I want to draw you back to the 1922-24 period and American congressional endorsement to the Balfour and the Zionist projects. Can you identify any independent interests which might explain the crafting of American congressional behavior in this period that is independent from Zionist influences?
The interplay is incredibly clear between both. In a way, there were economic interests before oil, or before there were rumors that oil is available in Saudi Arabia, for example, or in the Gulf. There were explorations for oil in Palestine in the early 1920s, and so on and so forth. So the United States did have an interest, an economic interest, in someone getting an access to oil in Palestine, especially in the Negev. And there was conflict actually between the British and the United States regarding oil, and some argue that this is one of the main reasons for the identification by the United States with the British in signing the Anglo-American Convention. So there were economic interests. But you see, the interest of the world goes deep in these economic interests and see who was behind. I mean, who was doing the exploration itself? It was the Zionist, Zionist figures. And here, Zionism is not a taboo by any means. After all, if you look at Theodore Herzl's the Jewish state, it's not a political conflict by any means. It's an economic formulation to the colonization of Palestine.
What about the role of the American Christian missionaries in that area? How did they react to the Balfour Declaration and to the events that you've been telling us about?
They were very concerned, indeed, and even up to this day, the ones who are interested the most and who provide information about what's happening in Palestine are those who have been there and who live there and see things the way they do on the ground. I didn't really gather specific data on their reaction. I know a friend of mine actually who should be done with his dissertation on this topic, but there was a positive reaction from the Palestinian point of view by these missionaries. And perhaps this is why the United States decided, talking about the official establishment, decided to be involved more and more in Palestine after 1924, because the protection of missionary interests only did not prove to be satisfactory and enough. And they wanted something more, the military interests.
Let me follow that up, Hisham.
Please.
I'm trying to find out whether you will admit the existence of, in effect, an independent colonial project in the American Congress during the period that we're discussing, that is distinct from Zionist interests.
Clearly there was, and I would again say that the interests were interwoven. In other words, it was a measure of convenience. Here were the Zionists interested in colonizing Palestine. The United States had other colonial interests at the time, dating back, if you will, at least from the Monroe Doctrine, 1823, and this was another continuation of this kind of phenomenon. Mexico was a case in point during Wilson's time. Even the question of Vietnam had its roots from Wilson's time due to the interest in colonization. When Ho Chi Minh came to the Paris Peace Conference in 1919 to advocate the case of his people to self-determination, he was basically literally grabbed by Wilson's guards and beaten up. Obviously, we would have predicted at that time, we were alive, if we were living, that seeds of conflict were so deep-rooted between Vietnam and the United States. So indeed, you're absolutely right. There was a distinct colonial interest on the part of the United States that was so closely interwoven with that of the Zionists.
Other faculty members may have questions.
One question, Hisham.
Please.
I'd like to follow up on self-determination. Do you consider any negative dynamics of self-determination, particularly in the light of self-determination in Europe in the interwar period? Like, let us assume that the Palestinians gain and acquire their legitimate rights. What would you consider as the dynamics of it? And would you consider a clash with the self-determination of some other people and adjacent nations? Because after all, they're dealing with the environment, which is pretty much explosive, regardless whether they're Zionists or Jews.
That's a very interesting and perhaps one of the most of the questions that I had to deal with. After, I would say, a lot of thinking about this issue, I came up with my own conclusion that the exercise by people of the right to self-determination is done properly, and of course we will have a debate on what properly is, will not be incompatible with another people's right. This might sound idealistic, but after all, if we talk about self-determination, are we talking about the self-determination of a religious group, or a racial group, or a national group that is a people? Clearly, in international law, it's the right of a nation or a national identity to exercise its right to self-determination. That's the external dimension, that it has to be independent, has to have its own representation, its own independent territorial base. That's the external dimension. Now, on the internal level, and that's the second dimension of self-determination, you have the question, this is the question that indeed should be raised. What about if this establishment, that national identity, did not prove to be democratic? Well, you have the rule of international law. Here, it's not the people concerned that is exercising the right to self-determination, but perhaps a particular regime, a dictatorship, okay? And here where one has to draw a distinction, I think there won't be a conflict between self-determination as a right, if it is exercised by a people. Why should it impinge on other people's rights?
Dr. Sunic, thank you for your question. Would you also argue, Mr. Ahmed, that the situation in Palestine is simpler than that in the Balkan areas of Europe? In other words, you're talking about two people, not a great variety of people. Does that simplify the situation in the topic of your dissertation?
Indeed, it made it made it much easier in a way that I had to deal with the right of a people where it is, there is a clear-cut definition of where this people is drawn, where they live, and so on and so forth.
I think that's why I picked the topic.
Really, that wasn't the easy part. That was the most difficult part.
Dr. Bourad Nash?
Did you get the chance, Hisham, to look at some of the findings of the British commissions? I know that this was not central to your dissertation, but did you get the chance to look at them, and how do they compare with the findings of the King-Crane Commission? For example, I have in mind the Peel Commission.
Right, that's a very excellent question indeed. That draws, or that sheds, that adds something to the research process, which I perhaps should have taken into consideration. Here it's a moment of confession. Between the King-Crane Commission report and the Peel Commission report in 1937, remember the King Commission 1919, so you have 18 years or so, and calculating the years where it was suppressed, so you have 15 years. In a way, the extent of oppression that the Palestinians would be subjected to if the rights of their nation was denied was known in the United States, perhaps before it was known in Britain, because the British started sending their commissions later on. There is, to an extent, a certain comparison, or a certain similarity, if you will, between what the Peel Commission said and the King-Crane Commission said. However, I find the King-Crane Commission perhaps more thorough in its premises and in its reasoning, because the Peel Commission was sent basically to contain the Palestinian uprising from 1936 to 39, It wasn't really sent to give Palestinians or to investigate the situation in Palestine the way they were. It's an interesting contrast, I should say.
Perhaps Dr. Eskandari has a question.
Yes, Hisham, from our own discussions on this topic, it's a sad fact of contemporary history that the Palestinians have very few friends in the West, but they also have very few friends among their Arab brothers. And the question then is, considering what you said, that without a nation state, it would be very difficult to defend one's rights. What do you think is going to be the situation of the Palestinian people if we consider that the nation or the statehood of the Palestinians is perhaps somewhat not forthcoming?
Well, as a Palestinian, first of all, I have to believe in the inevitability of the establishment of the Palestinian state. After all, it is declared. More than 90 countries recognize the Palestinian state, declared in November 15 last year. And now, as to when and under what conditions this state would come into actual existence rather than formulated existence only, that's a tough question. I think if we are asked about, what the future is hiding, the future is hiding more brutality. Just in the month of January alone, there have been more casualties than in any other month during the entire Intifada period. So I think we are more likely to see more atrocities by the Israelis. But I think there is another side of the coin there. And that's the irony in the whole situation, that Palestinian resistance would become more intensified. The more the Israelis, if you will, reflect so brutally on the Palestinians, the more Palestinians would be willing and ready to sacrifice, and I think would become more innovative in the way they resist. So far, we have been seeing, unarmed masses going down to the streets, totally unarmed, and basically throwing stones or whatever comes, handy the Israeli soldiers. But I think if things continue the way they are, which is very likely that they will, I think we're going to see an incredible shift in Palestinian tactics and strategy. And in that case, I believe the United States would find a loss, and so will the Israelis.
Would do what?
Will feel that they lost really panic.
They lost an opportunity?
Indeed.
Any other faculty questions? Then we're going to have questions from others here. When we've concluded those, we're going to have introductions of visitors from outside the university, and we're going to conclude with what normally one would start with, is I'm going to introduce the speaker, after which we will have refreshments. So now we open the questions to anyone who would like to probe further into the findings and analysis of this dissertation. Yes. What's your name?
Peter. I wondered if you could comment on the dynamics of Truman's support of Zionist colonialism and some of the conflicts between Zionism and some of the business interests, and maybe what perhaps was Truman's motivations there in that period, that crucial period.
Truman is an interesting character. Basically didn't know what to do. Was under incredible pressure. Many people were writing letters to him, threatening him, bomb threats, and you can easily find that in his daughter's book, Margaret Truman. Okay, some of his close friends were writing letters trying to intimidate his mother, his sister, so that he would support the Zionist program. He was threatened that he would lose the election if he didn't support the Zionist program, and all sorts of pressure, psychological, political, even, almost, if you will, an entire whole spectrum of surrounding that person's psyche to support the Zionist program. But he wasn't that innocent. He was indoctrinated, he was socialized in a certain manner, and he grew up with the belief that Palestine is basically what the Zionists say it is, an empty desert, and that it's not developed, and that the Arabs are backward, they have nothing to offer whatsoever, and that the Zionists were going to make the desert bloom. He believed in that. And worse than this, his concern was how many troops is he going to send to Palestine to implement the Zionist program. One conversation with one of his aides, David Niles, very close friend, but at the same time assistant of Truman, Niles said, told Truman, look, you're really overworried about this whole issue. You shouldn't worry. After all, the majority, and I'm quoting verbatim here, the majority of the non-Muslim world follow Gandhi's philosophy of non-resistance, not non-violence, non-resistance. Of course, there are lots of inaccuracies in this statement. Philosophically, it's a racist statement in many ways, assuming that Gandhi and his philosophers are basically a non-entity, no political entity whatsoever, and Truman believed that. But as to whether he had a humanitarian concern or not, to me it is very doubtful, because there was no indication that he was humanely concerned, whether about the Jews or the Palestinians. If he was really concerned, had a human concern, he could have opened the doors of the United States for Jewish immigration. The United States ardently closed its doors between 1933 and 1947. Okay? Under pressure from the Zionists, by the way, and I think if you look down the outline, you have a subtitle about Zionist disinterest in rescuing Holocaust survivors. This is very well documented by Jewish scholars, most prominent of whom is Lenny Brewer. Yes.
My name is Askia.
Yes.
And I would like to ask Hisham. As an Arab woman, I always followed with what's happening in Palestine and the Palestinian issue. And I always questioned the political system in Israel. How it's going to be in the long run for the Arab civilization, which served humanity for a long time, and Israel is coming with no respect to the civilization of the Arab people and the injustices they've done. How do you look at, we all know that the Israeli system and South African government political systems are not based on respecting the human rights of people. How are we going to develop as third world nations to protect the rights of all people, of all groups, of all? If we are going to have a Jewish state, Muslim state, Christian state, how are we going to develop? How are we going to go ahead and focus in a new future? You see, I could never see or accept, as an Arab woman, accept the Israeli system. It's not helping me. To go to develop, to improve. It's like an anti-body in a system that is trying to be better. And the system is fighting itself. Now, from what I see, what is happening, and it is not allowing. They're bunch of immigrants.
Let me say this.
Hisham, let me continue. Coming, okay, to rule and to tell the people of that area what to do. Okay? Is that fair? How do you look at it with the self-determination of the Palestinians?
Sure.
You're looking at it only in the short run. In the long run, is it going to help them?
The question
We need political systems that protect the rights of all people.
You see, the question on hand is absolutely it's everything but a question of fairness from the Israeli point of view. See, from the Palestinian, the Arab, if you will, the quote-unquote third world point of view, and I think many concerned, scholars in the West, it is a question of fairness. But you see, here we're dealing with a colonial phenomenon. It is not new to Israel. Absolutely, Israel had a prominent role, perhaps one of the most prominent roles to play in colonialism, in the history of colonialism. But you see, colonialism thrives on, and I'm not going to give a lecture on colonialism, absolutely not, but colonialism thrives on establishing connections between its different actors, so to speak. If you take the connection between South Africa and Israel, well, the first head of state to visit Israel after 48 was a South African head of state, okay? If that says something, obviously, should fly on the connection between the two entities. The connection between Israel, for example, and Panama, Noriega, before the troubles between him and the United States started, well, his right-hand advisor was appointed by the Israeli government and paid for by the Israeli government, okay? And you can find this, by the way, you can find all this information in Western sources. Some American, I would say, not a lot, but primarily British and French, okay? Connection between Israel and El Salvador, Chile, and you know, the list is too long. What's going to happen in the long run is difficult to predict, but the main prerequisite for fundamental change is to eliminate any racial basis in the Middle East or in any other place for that matter. In other words, you know, once you have a religious state, be it Muslim, Jewish, Christian, or religiously atheist state, you're going to end up with trouble, no question about it, because that's incompatible with a collective action, non-racial, non-religious action, secular action.
What kind of a Palestinian state would you like to see created?
Well, let me, say a few words on this. What I would really like myself to see, or what I really think would happen in the long run, is a secular state in Palestine, where the rights of everybody are protected and guaranteed, be them Jews, Christian, Muslim, or those who don't identify themselves with a particular religious group. Now, the official Palestinian political platform program is that to be in Palestine two states, so one Israeli Jewish and another Palestinian Arab. Assuming that this would happen, I think what we are going to have is an internal conflict within the Israeli establishment. Here you have a democratic establishment in Palestine where the rights of all are protected, while in the Israeli structure is based on racial exclusivity and discrimination against others. Obviously, you're going to have some Israelis saying, well, enough is enough. How could we be compared, or how are we going to survive next to a democratic state? So either the Israeli state will not accept the establishment of a Palestinian state next to it, which is what's happening these days, or you will have fundamental transformation within the Israeli society to make it non-religious and non-racial.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, sir. Hisham, my question would be on the Intifada, and how does, in your research, I think you went through lots of nations, or you studied lots of nations who went through the same thing the Palestinians are going through these days, in which the media here is not, I think sometimes is not fair to the Palestinian people, in which they depict them as terrorists, and even sometimes they try to show the Intifada as a terrorist action. Now, how would you justify people's resistance in order to get the self-determination? Is an Intifada like a way of self-determination, or if there is any similarity between this Intifada or any other nations Intifada in the past?
Well, by all accounts,
terrorism also, just elaborate if you can.
By all accounts, this is one of the most, if you will, popular resistance movements to appear, at least in modern history. This is by all accounts, I believe. However, in history there have been upheavals. The Algerians resisting the French, the Libyans resisting the Italians, the Americans resisting the British, although this is to be taken with a grain of salt, because here you have the conflict with the numerous other examples, but once this movement starts, once an uprising starts, this is actually visible from all indications. There is no reversibility. The Palestinian uprising would continue, I think, until the achievement of goals. There is going to be incredible sacrifices in the middle. As to the question of terrorism, it is an ill-defined concept. I don't think it is defined. It is basically a metaphor for intoxication and pacification. Whenever a Palestinian gives a speech, I've not heard of any speech that Palestinians gave where no question on terrorism comes up. I really haven't heard of it. But you see, here we are neglecting the history of an entire history of colonization, of uprooting of the Palestinians from their homeland. I mentioned Simha Flatan. He wrote an excellent book, very well documented book on the systematic destruction of Palestinian towns and villages in 1948. If this is not terrorism, then obviously there's a problem in terminology and a profound linguistic problem. Avi Schleim also wrote incredible works on this. But to add to this, or to synthesize this with what the Israeli establishment itself said about terrorism, I think is very important. Let me, if I may, refer you to an interesting article Shamir is the Prime Minister of Israel, wrote back in 1943, if I recall correctly. Take just a minute to put my hand on it.
While you're doing that, we'll take one or two more questions and focusing on the dissertation, and then we'll be drawing to a close.
Okay, here's what Shamir said, and I'm absolutely sure that this is going to, invoke and provoke incredible, if you will, unbelievability on the part of many. And I myself question what he said. But this is what he said. Neither Jewish ethics nor Jewish tradition can disqualify terrorism as a means of combat. Remember that Shamir saying that. We are very far from having any moral qualms as far as our national war goes. We have before us the command of the Torah, the Jewish Bible, whose morality surpasses that of any other body of laws in the world. And he is quoting, "Ye shall blot thee out to the last man." We are particularly far from having any qualms with regard to the enemy, whose moral degradation is universally admitted here. But first and foremost, terrorism is for us a part of the political battle being conducted under the present circumstances, and it has a great part to play, speaking in a clear voice to the whole world as well as to our wretched brethren outside this land. It proclaims our war against the occupier. Of course, let alone of these words for the Palestinians. It shouldn't surprise you that Shamir himself said that whatsoever. The question that should be raised, how were these words translated and transformed into action? Massacres. Before we talk about Sabra and Shatila, before even we talk about the Holocaust, and we shouldn't underestimate the if you will, the degree, the catastrophic degree of the Holocaust. We have to talk about a long history of massacres committed, by those who formulated as what Shamir did. The Yazid massacre. I mean, how many, in the West hear this term? When we speak of the Intifada, you hear about Palestinians. Statistics. Today 3 killed, tomorrow 4 will be killed, yesterday, Not a single Palestinian name is pronounced on the tongue of very few scholars, so to speak. While when you have, Teresa Porat killed by an Israeli settler, to clarify the record.
The Los Angeles Times does give the names whenever they have them.
You're right.
It's an exception, I don't know.
You're right.
We're going to move on, though. We're going to have short questions and short answers, maybe just 1, 2, or 3.
Paul, I don't know if this is a short question, maybe be possible to answer, but it does refer to your dissertation. Hisham, you gave a strong prima facie case for Zionist influence the Judeo-Christian tradition? Would you think it was a sort of ignorance of or hostility to Arabs that was occurring in America at the time? How do you explain this influence? Do you seem to document it?
It's a very, very interesting and important question indeed. Why is all this hostility taking place? I've thought about this question a lot. And I'm not saying that just to tell people that I think about this question. Absolutely not. And there are many answers that could be really cited for. My inclination is that there is a fertile and already fertile environment for the Zionists to penetrate American political and social thought. The case is not that the Zionists are intelligent, smart actors on the domestic and international scene, and they have no, if you will, qualifiedly similar combatants to deter their behavior. I don't think that is the case at all. I think there is an already fertile environment in the U.S. in particular where the Zionists could thrive and be enriched with the racist ideology they possess. After all, and this is the fundamental question, if you look at just normal behavior, on a day-to-day level behavior, you won't find any, if you will, similarity between the way a Zionist conducts his affairs in the United States or manages to conduct his affairs in the U.S. and the way a Palestinian does. Palestinians have to struggle, just to be recognized or just to be referred to as Palestinians, let alone to live a decent life.
Or to be listened to.
Or to be listened to.
Now, maybe just one quick one. I think we've had a wonderful exchange here, and perhaps we should stop now. I may say that the committee had previously approved your written dissertation, and now I can tell you that members of the committee here today have concluded that you have successfully defended your dissertation, and by virtue of the authority vested in me by the University of California, I hereby declare you to be Hisham Ahmed, Ph.D. Dr. Ahmed, are there visitors here, other than our normal students and faculty and so on, are there visitors here that you would like to introduce to us?
Thank you very much, Professor Anderson. Thank you, everybody. That was a very interesting and stimulating experience indeed. And the research will go on. We won't stop at this point. First and foremost, after recognizing my faculty and my friends here at the department, I would really like to welcome, first and foremost, Mrs. Khalil, a Palestinian herself, who I believe it's going to be very difficult for me to describe because I think she has more interest in my dissertation defense, and that might sound kind of odd, but everything is approved now. Perhaps more than I did. And indeed, to me, it is very honorable, and I do appreciate it, Mrs. Khalil.
Mrs. Khalil, you live here in Santa Barbara, is that?
With her, she has her niece, Fatin, I already made reference to, my friend Hindi, Asia, Sam, Marilyn. Did I forget somebody? I shouldn't have started naming.
No.
Tarek. Thank you, Dr. Iskandari.
I think we should ask Marilyn Plumley to stand, who has been an extremely effective research assistant and collaborator in this dissertation. Now, just in about 20 or 30 words, really, I just want to say that Dr. Ahmed came here with a bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois and completed the entire dissertation and its defense within a period of 3.5 years. And I think that's a remarkable accomplishment. And the members of his committee, including myself, can attest to the tremendous devotion and diligence, the hard work, and often without sleep, and the persistence and the response to our suggestions and inquiries, which have made a fine dissertation, one which I expect to see in published form someday, with its sequel, the same topic but from the period of 1948 to the present. So we're going to stop now and have some refreshments. You're all welcome to stay. We'll be right here. If we could perhaps open the other half of that door and leave a little room for the refreshments to be brought in. Thank all of you for coming, for all of your participation. Thank you very much.
Hisham, congratulations. انت اول PhD مبروك. اول PhD بعملتها؟
يعني تصير ان شاء الله اول PhD. You should get joined as
Thank you.
when you join, you should get to be like that. I'm afraid you won't. You haven't. I think about it tonight.
It's not